Hello and welcome to Saturday. It is 1:02 in the morning. I can shift the camera just to show the clock. 1:02 in the AM. And I am having a time. I've drank a lot tonight. I was at my cousin's house and just spent some time with the family. But I drank a lot, and here we are. However, over the course of the past month, I've been slowly working my way through a book. And that book would be Liz Pelly's Mood Machine. Now, Mood Machine is a incredible book. It is about, it's right here in the title. It's can I zoom in? No. The Rise of Spotify and the Cost of the Perfect Playlist. That's the full title, and oh boy, we're gonna get into it. First off, I want to shout out one album that came out yesterday, for me at least. By the time you're watching this, it is Sunday, so I guess 2 days ago. But I listened to this on midnight on Friday when it dropped. That would be Michelle's Honors, aka Japanese Breakfast, for Melancholy Brunettes and Sad Women. This arrived on my doorstep a couple hours ago, and I got it on vinyl. The CD is across the room. Signed copy. Thank you, Michelle. Love you. I'm gonna be seeing Michelle later on tour when she comes to New York, so that'll be fun. But let's talk about Mood Machine. So this is a book about Spotify and their rise to, the state that they are currently in. Now, for those who don't know, and that would be extremely hard to not know, Spotify is a music streaming service that has been around since the early 2010s. Actually, I don't know when Spotify first came about. It was 2010, 2006. That sounded correct. 2006 it was founded, but I really think that they got their foothold in the modern streaming. Yeah, in 2011 is when they launched in the U.S. That's kind of what I was going over. So Spotify, the mass music streaming service, is a problem, believe it or not. The most popular way to consume music in the U.S. and I would think most parts of the world is Spotify. Spotify is originally a Swedish company and has really gained a foothold here in the U.S. Now, there are other competitors. Sure, there's Apple Music and YouTube Music and Amazon Music and other services like Pandora, Tidal, but Spotify is the big one. Spotify has been around for the longest, and, while other corporations seem to be a lot bigger, like Apple, Amazon, and YouTube, if not Google, Spotify has a dominant hold of the music industry, at least here in the US. Now, I love Spotify. I kind of hate to say it after reading this book, but I do. Originally, my music streaming platform of choice was Google Play Music. I have receipt from, I believe, August 1st, 2016, when I first subscribed to Google Play Music. They had a family plan that was something like $15, $16 a month, and you were able to add 6 people in your family that you could share this with. And as a result, you got YouTube Music Premium. Not YouTube Music Premium, but at the time, YouTube Red, which evolved into YouTube Premium. Basically, you're allowed to stream and consume YouTube ad-free. You get a bunch of bonus features, and I thought it was a great way for me to not only have a music streaming platform that I would use, but also to have YouTube ad free. YouTube is where I spent a lot of my time and still do. I consume hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of YouTube every month because I just love the platform. It's just the place to consume video content. There's nothing else like it. Vimeo, Dailymotion, nothing comes close to YouTube. So I I subscribed to Google Play Music, and then eventually when it started to fall off a bit, I switched over to Spotify. I think it took a couple of years, but Google Play Music eventually became YouTube Music, and through my college, if you had a college email, you're able to get Spotify at a discount and get Hulu. I'm kind of grandfathered into that, so with my current email that's not in .edu, I'm able to pay for Spotify, but also I get Hulu on the side, so it kind of went hand in hand. So I figured, why not, right? I was able to get 3 services that I really liked, and a partner I had a partner I had at the time really enjoyed Spotify, so I was like, okay, let me go on Spotify and start using this. It also helped that Discord, the main platform I use for communications with other people, Discord, the platform I use for just communicating with people in general, heavily promotes Spotify as well, and people can see what you're listening to, and that's really cool. Maybe you can, but I haven't explored it. But you can't really do that with other services. So there's really cool integration there. But the thing is, Spotify is bad. You hear about how Spotify doesn't pay the artists well, and that's a big deal because Spotify is a huge company. But then also other streaming services they're not better, right? Sure, they may pay more per stream, but it's kind of insignificant on a scale. Other services will pay a lot more, like Tidal, which charges more, but it's also you get higher quality music or higher quality masters, and there's whole different things that you can probably look into more. But it's weird and it's strange, and people tend to go with the easier option, which is Spotify or YouTube Music or Apple Music or Amazon or what have you. And it's just a whole thing. There's a lot. So let's talk about Mood Machine, because I've just talked nonsense. So Mood Machine is a book by Liz Pelly that goes into the depths of everything you want to know about Spotify and how kind of evil as a company they seem. Every big corporation and company is evil in some shape or form. You can't get big without stepping on some little people. And Spotify does that by kind of crushing the artists that build them up. Now, Spotify is a massive company that wants you to passively listen to music. What I mean by that is that there's 2 specific ways to listen to music. There's active listening and there's passive listening. Active listening is when most if not all of your focus is engaged with that record or album or music or song that you're listening to. When Jay Brecky's from Melancholy Brunettes and Sad Women came out just the other night, at midnight I had this on. It was the only thing I was engaging with. I was just sitting on my bed, listening to the music in the dark, and just engaging with the album, and I loved it. I didn't listen to it again until just now, as I was heading over to my cousin's house, and on the way back. But it's a great, incredible, and wonderful record. Then there's passive listening, which is when, oh hey, I'm driving or I'm cooking or I'm just doing something and I need something to fill the noise. That's passive listening. And there's some great music for passive listening. Across the room, I have a ton of video game OSTs. My favorite music for listening to when I'm reading a book or whatever is the OST for Coffee Talk, a game that I've played and I love and that I own on vinyl. I have yet to play the second game, but I will. It's a wonderful, wonderful album, and I just love it so much. But Spotify wants you to keep passively listening to music. Spotify's main method of engagement is by generating playlists. If I go to my Spotify right now, and if I go home, you'll see that, well, it's shooting out albums that I think I'll like. Well, yeah, recommendations and everything, and even audiobooks. But then we go here, and it's like, hey, here are a bunch of playlists and whatever. Get Turnt, Party Hits, Latin Party Anthems, Neon Cowgirl, Frat Party, Pop Party, Indie Party, Hardstyle Bangers, New Disco. And nothing really here appeals to me that much. Maybe New Disco, but even then. There's a bunch of stuff about trending albums and whatnot, and that's algorithmically generated music, which is a whole discussion in itself. But the main thing Spotify wants to do is to be the background music to your life. Spotify wants you to listen to and engage, not even engage with, just passively listen to music. They want you to just not think. They'll just feed you a stream of music that it makes me dislike the platform. Now, the way I've always consumed music is by, I felt I was wrong for doing this, but I would go to an artist I like, or like pick out an album and just listen to the album all the way through. I seldom would I go to a playlist or pick out specific songs just to listen to that. And I felt bad for doing that. I feel like I was engaging with music incorrectly. But after reading this book, I feel validated almost for listening to music in such a way. Because when artists make music, they make a whole album. Sure, they might make a single or two and like heavily promote that, but it's also a thing of, this is a whole cohesive piece that you need to engage with as one single unit. You need to listen to this front to back and understand and feel, and it's just absorb the show and absorb the album. When I said show, I was thinking that there are two kind of ways you can engage with TV. Most shows don't. Well, I feel like most shows tell an overarching plot from point A to point B. Yeah, and then you have people. Well, then you have shows that you can skip around and engage with, like, to certain degrees. Like one of my favorite shows is Seinfeld, and just putting on a random episode is nice. But for other shows, they tell a full story, and you wouldn't put on a show that tells a story. You wouldn't engage with that episode by episode. It's a whole thing. And Spotify wants you to go just take this whole random nonsense of just syndicated shows, except for music, right? You'll have songs that are just like 80s hits or 70s hits or 90s hits or whatever. Songs from artists who are like modern rock hits or whatever, or whatever is just new on the scene. There are playlists like Lorem, which are just catered to Gen Z, a playlist that I really like, but it's just, just hand-picked best songs from whatever genre. The book really wants you to care about two specific, and even, well, maybe four specific genres: lo-fi, ambient, DIY to a slight degree, and one more. Oh god, it's slipping my mind. lo-fi, ambient, DIY, hyperpop. It wants you to think about these genres. Lo-fi wants the listener to passively listen. It's a whole genre defined by that. And that sucks. There's the whole ambient genre, which is in a similar boat, where Spotify wants you to, like, put it on in the background, not engage with it. It points out an album by Brian Eno, I believe his name is, which is called something like Music for Airports. I'm going to look this up because it deserves to be said. Music for Airports. Ambient One, Music for Airports, the sixth studio album by English musician Brian Eno. It is an incredible album that I listened to while reading this book, and it's about ambient music. It's a whole record about how, just, what if you were in an airport listening to this and just like engaging this? You're in a time and a place and a setting, and this is a soundtrack to that. You're listening and engaging with this music while your visual aspects are being consumed by being in this airport. It's incredible. I love this album, and it's something that I would not have engaged. Like, I never really thought about the ambient genre. I thought it was just like kind of background music. But Pelly wants you to think about this in the way it's meant to be thought about. Then you also have DIY. Well, not a little bit DIY. She goes on to describe how a musician, like, DIY originally was used to describe bands like the bands I enjoy, punk, Full Blown Meltdown is the best band I can think of. I sent a message to Full Blown Meltdown. I was like, hey, read this book. You're gonna love it. And I hope that they read it. But the other one is hyperpop. Hyperpop, before Spotify labeled it hyperpop, was known as Neon Party on Spotify. And hyperpop is a genre that has roots on SoundCloud. That was a genre of music that was specifically designed. It was a very small scene, and it was everybody knew everybody in the scene, and it was a whole genre of music that people wanted to make because they knew everybody, and it was just friends having a good time making crazy stuff. But then Spotify was like, hey, what if we mass market this? And I love some hyperpop artists like 100 Gex, Underscores, and there's some incredible music out there. But then Spotify just makes this whole thing, and the people who are part of the genre of hyperpop are leaving it because they no longer feel like it represents them. This whole mass marketed thing was something that used to be underground and it used to be so intimate, and now it's just has this wide appeal that is just incredibly different than it was originally. It's crazy, and it's, oh my gosh, that's only one part of this book. There's a whole thing about how Spotify is surveilling you, how they keep track of every single thing that you do in the app, for how long you listen to a song, to how often you interact with the application itself. They can track almost everything from how you scroll around in the app, how you can just do this and just scroll, and like a click right here. They know that I clicked on this. They know that I'm going to this artist. An artist I've never heard about. If it'll work, hello? An artist I've never heard about. Great Grandpa, I don't know anything about them. But Spotify knows that I'm engaging with this. And it's just crazy that they keep track of this information. How long I'll be playing this song that was this album that I've heard so much good things about, from just how this band has inspired everything. And I was having a conversation with a friend moments ago about how this is her favorite album by her favorite band, and I just wanted to listen to it, to engage with it in some meaningful way. And Spotify strips that out, because if I just go to my what goes next here, if I go here and just go Spotify auto generates this cue because they want you to just keep listening. They don't want you to engage. And it's crazy. My camera's about to shut off in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 second. Okay. Uh, my camera has a recording limit of 20 minutes. I've calmed down a bit. It's a couple minutes later. Uh, okay. Let's get through this. So, we talked about how Spotify tracks everything, how they want you to passively listen to stuff, how they want you to just not engage with stuff. It sucks. It's horrid. They don't pay out their artists as much as they should because the music industry is just so messed up. It's despicable and it's just crazy. If you're gonna listen to a playlist, try to engage with an artist that you really like. If I go to something like, I don't know, just if I just search, punk is my favorite genre. So if I go to punk, and then we go to, sure, punk mix by Spotify. That's made for you, and there's a whole thing, and you can see that there's a lot of stuff that I enjoy. Right? There's artists I've heard of, and there's. Is this all artists I've heard of? This is all artists I've heard of, so it's a bad playlist. That's algorithmically generated. But then you go to something like, oh boy, punk genre. Oh, yeah, popular punk playlist, and then we go to all new punk. This is a great playlist that I think is good. Right? It's punk music that's brand new. So while it's curated by Spotify, if you jive with any of these artists, like I don't have any of these as my like songs or whatever, but I've recognized very few. The only one I recognize is Ellis Dunes, which is a spin-off from My Chemical Romance. But Viagra Boys, I love Viagra Boys' Cave World. Excellent album. I'm not seeing Pup Hallways, of course. Pup, my favorite band. Their most recent song, Hallways, is on here. Other artists I recognize. Nothing is springing out to me. I mean, Pup's Paranoid, but it's also by Pup. Is this suggested? No, it's just so they got two Pup songs, which are the two latest songs. It's great. So. It's gonna be a wonderful time going through that playlist. And if something stands out to me, explore that artist is what you should be doing. You should be actively listening to songs. Sure, you can put it on in the background, but if something strikes you, engage with that artist. They're not making any money off of your streams, I assure you, because the way Spotify is made, only the people who are getting millions and millions and millions of streams every day are making the most money. It's the small independent creators that are signed to these small record companies that are barely keeping themselves afloat because of the way how Spotify makes their money. They make their money from album sales, record sales. This is an album from Counterintuitive Records that I bought directly from them. That is an artist I like. They only have the one album, but I love this album. This is one of the greatest albums I've heard in such a long time, and it's just so good. And if I could support this artist in any more ways than I can, I would. I own all of their music because it's just the one album. But I bought all their stuff on Bandcamp. I'm supporting them as much as I can because that's what you should do. You should be engaging with the artists. You should be buying their stuff on platforms that give them more money. And it's an incredible way of looking at things because Mood Machine just makes you think about the ways you're engaging with music and how just Spotify is so dominant and how they control everything about their platform and how they want you to engage with music, and they change the way that society engages with music. There's so much more to be said. This album goes into AI, which is something that I didn't I barely even thought about, but it's just something that is there in this book. There's just so much to say. But man, this video has gone way too long. It's... Please read Moon Machine by Liz Pelly. Do it. It's a life-changing book, and it is just... It's so, so good. I don't own it physically. I will. I got this from my library. But you should read it, and you should engage with music more. Because, man, Spotify is evil. And there really isn't any better solution for engaging with music. Sure, there are other services like Apple Music and YouTube Music, but they're all the same. Spotify just sucks, and modern music streaming sucks. And the only way we're going to make this better is by fighting this good fight. Support your local artists, support your small indie bands that you love. And just do as good as you can. Because, man, we are fighting a very much losing battle. And this is just a small glimmer of hope that can hopefully start a revolution. Anyway, that's what we're going to call it for today. Thank you all for watching. I hope to see you tomorrow. And until then, later.